Well, hello everyone. It's Casey Vineyard here at Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium. We are so excited to have you here as we launch our newest mission for the month of September through Mission Conservation Public Lands. Those who have been with us since last year may be familiar with this topic. However, this year you will get to meet all new partners to talk about exciting areas across the United States that we call public lands. Get ready to dive into these fun facts about these awesome areas, who manages them, and even animals that inhabit the area. In order to play this really fun mission, all you have to do is climb on over to our mission conservation page at www.wondersofwildlife.org/mission-conservation. And that will bring you to our mission conservation webpage. On this website, I'll bring your attention down to get the app. Once you click download, that'll take you to download the Agents of Discovery app, which you will need to play any mission conservation mission. Once you have the app downloaded, create a user account and hit log in. Hit the search bar, type in mission conservation. This is where we house all of our at-home missions and they will pop up for you to play. Once you have the mission popped up and loaded, hit play and get ready for your fun adventure. If you're looking for more public land related activities, we're going to direct you down to another part of the website where it says schedule of missions and activities. This tab will show you all the missions we have live, including our current mission, public lands. Under this tab, you will also find our activity guide that we have specifically made for you at home. There will be a craft, an awesome outdoor activity, and something that you can do to promote conservation for public lands. When you're out there exploring those public lands, remember, look at those 7 principles of leave no trace. So I am currently standing here in front of our Great Smoky Mountains exhibit here at Wonders of Wildlife. This replica perfectly shows the ecosystem of this famous park. National parks are wonderful ways to explore public lands. Normally outside of national and state parks, you will find a forest. These are managed by the USDA Forest Service. And that brings me to our partner for the day. We have quite a few partners with us, all within the USDA Forest Service. So we're going to speak with Sandy and Farah first. How are you guys doing?
Hi, Casey. We're doing great. Thanks.
That's super exciting. What do you have for us today?
Thank you. So, hi, everybody. I'm Sandy Marin, and I am a Tribal Relations Specialist with the USDA Forest Service. Today, I'm zooming in from Washington, D.C., and I work at the national headquarters.
Hi, everyone. My name is Farah Masumi, and I am a social science natural resource specialist at Tahoe National Forest, which is in Northern California. So what is the U.S. Forest Service, you might be wondering? So the U.S. Forest Service has a wonderful slogan. It is caring for the land and serving people. So we take care of 154 national forests and 20 national grasslands across the United States. So this is 193 million acres of land that have multiple uses. So people love to come here to recreate, go camping, hiking, biking. You can do so much on a national forest or grassland, but of course we need to balance those uses because not only are people using these places, but the animals need their homes too. And of course we also use these spaces for things like harvesting lumber, like in the houses that we live in. So each forest and grassland is completely different, and there's a lot of different things you can do at each one. So we need to find the balance of taking care of our forests and grasslands. And it's a challenge that we all work together to face. And we also need help from people like you to take care of these beautiful places. So we do have a really special guest with us today. And Sandy, will you introduce them?
Thanks, Farah. Today, we are here to celebrate one of our favorite Forest Service members, Woodsy Owl. Do any of you know who Woodsy Owl is? Well, Woodsy Owl is the national anti-pollution and land stewardship icon of the USDA Forest Service. Today, Woodsy is joined by another Forest Service employee who is going to teach us about Woodsy's conservation messages. Over to you, Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Ficker. I'm a support services specialist at Mark Twain National Forest in Missouri. And of course, here's Woodsy Owl.
Hi, Woodsy and Emily. How are you doing today?
We're doing great. We are so excited to be with you all today.
And we are so excited to be here with you too. Now, Woodsy, I heard you have a special birthday coming up next week on September 15th. How old will you be turning?
So Woodsy will be turning 50 years old. For 50 years, he has been the nation's original and official environmental icon. Woodsy has began spreading his conservation message in 1971 when his friend Smokey Bear needed some backup in teaching people how to take care of the land. After several years of success, Congress passed the Smokey Bear Woodsy Owl Act of 1974 to preserve Woodsy's image forever.
Wow, Woodsy, you have a really important job, and you've been doing this for 50 years. I think that calls for a big birthday celebration. Woodsy Owl helps us remember different ways to take care of our environment. Woodsy, I know you have a couple different slogans that help us remember how to take care of our environment. Can you tell us what they are?
Sure. Woodsy's first slogan is "Give a hoot, don't pollute." This is Woodsy's iconic original slogan, asking people to stop polluting or limit their pollution by not littering and doing other earth-friendly activities.
If you are ever tempted to litter, remember Woodsy's slogan, "Give a hoot, don't pollute," and always throw your recyclables or trash in a recycling bin or trash can. Woodsy, don't you have another slogan about taking care of the land?
Yes, lend a hand, care for the land. This is Woodsy's current slogan, and we use it to teach people how to conserve natural resources and be good stewards of the land.
There are so many ways that you can lend a hand and care for the land. With National Public Lands Day right around the corner at the end of September, you can learn about the many ways to get involved in taking care of the land. Just Google National Public Lands Day, and you can find all kinds of information about events that are happening near you. Well, what's another one of Woodsy's conservation messages?
That's the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. Reduce means to cut down on the amount of things that you use every day. One way to reduce your daily garbage is by bringing your lunch to school in reusable containers. Reuse means using the same thing more than once. Donate clothes that don't fit you anymore, and give away games or toys that you don't play with anymore. Recycling is a way of taking something old and turning it into something new. Recycling paper saves trees. Used plastic bottles can be recycled into new clothing, carpet, and even outdoor furniture. And old tires can be remade into pavement. And rot is the natural way to turn leftover fruit and vegetables into really good plant food called compost.
We can use Woodsy's 4 R's every single day. Actually, in just a few minutes, I am going to teach you more about the 4th R, rot, or compost. And did you know that there's another bonus R, refuse? Say no to the disposable plastic bag at the grocery store. The average plastic bag is only used for a few seconds before it is thrown away. Can you carry those items in your arms instead? Wow, Woodsy, I feel like I'm learning so much from your conservation messages. Keep them coming.
Okay, open your eyes, be climate wise. Encourages people to reduce their carbon footprints by learning about the causes of climate change and steps that people can take in their daily lives to reduce carbon emissions.
Can you think of some ways to reduce your carbon footprint? Well, open your eyes. You can take little steps to reduce your carbon footprint every day. Turn off the lights when you leave a room. And if you can, choose to walk or ride your bike instead of driving whenever it's possible. All right, Woodsy, what else do we got?
Be water wise. Woodsy also encourages people to conserve water by taking small steps in their daily lives to reduce unnecessary water consumption and also to discourage people from causing pollution in waterways.
How can we be water wise like Woodsy? Well, I always turn off the water when I'm brushing my teeth, and I collect rainwater to water my plants. Wow, Woodsy, you have so many great conservation messages that remind me how I can help take care of their environment. And I think there's still one more left, right?
That's right. Woodsy's last message is turn your key, be idle free. This one reminds people to turn off their vehicles if they'll be stopped for an extended period of time.
Okay, so I know a lot of you listening don't drive a car yet, but remind your parents to turn off their cars if they'll be idling for longer than 10 seconds. Lots of cars nowadays do that automatically, and that's great. Well, I just learned so much about Woodsy's conservation messages. We just learned give a hoot, don't pollute, lend a hand, care for the land, the 4 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. Open your eyes, be climate wise, be water wise, and turn your key, be idle free. That's 6 conservation messages that we all can take home with us today. So now that we know all of Woodsy's conservation messages, I'm going to turn it to Farah, who is going to take us through an activity that will help us remember how to lend a hand and care for the land.
Thank you so much, Sandy. So lending a hand and caring for land is super easy. It could be picking up garbage around your neighborhood or in the forest, but a great place to start is thinking about what kind of land or ecosystem you're on. So an ecosystem, right over here, is a place where animals, plants, weather, temperature, they all work together to create really special bubbles around certain places. So we're gonna do an activity called a single patch of earth. And into this activity, we want to pay attention to 2 special things. Abiotic elements. So these are things in our ecosystem that are not alive. So we're looking at things like wind, sunlight, temperature, stuff like rocks as well, and even water. Those are all abiotic elements of an ecosystem. So they're not quite alive. So when we're looking at biotic elements of an ecosystem, these are things that are living and breathing. Things like plants, like this cactus, animals like this fox. We have some flowers right over here, lupin, fungi, algae. There's so many biotic elements and abiotic elements that work together to make an ecosystem. So in order to do this activity at home, all you need is a ruler and some sticks. So when you're at home, you can find a patch of earth that you want to observe and study. Make a square that's about, find sticks that are about 1 foot long and make a square. And then you can make observations about that single square. So let's take a look at my first ecosystem and see if you can guess what kind of ecosystem it may be. So I notice an abiotic element of rocks and water. These things aren't alive. I see one of my favorite animals, which is a sea anemone, which is a biotic or alive element. And we even have some sea kelp here that's also alive or biotic. Rocks, seaweed, water. Well, if you guess that this is a marine ecosystem, you'd be correct. Some marine ecosystems are places that we love to go to the beach. I love to look at tide pools for all the little critters in there. And they're all over the coast. So let's take a look at our next patch of earth. Over here, I notice some abiotic water over here, so not alive water. There's some plants growing here. They're a lot smaller, more like grass. So those are biotic or alive things. I think there's probably some fish living in here. That would be a biotic or alive element. So what's a place where we can find water, and grass like this? Well, if you guessed that it is a freshwater ecosystem, you'd be correct. So these are things like our rivers, our streams, our lakes. They look a lot different than the ocean or the marine ecosystem. And these can usually be found maybe around forests as well. So our next one is very, very different. Oh boy, I don't see any abiotic water in here. It looks all cracked over here. This is our soil. So our soil would be an abiotic or not alive element. It looks very dry, so this place does not get a lot of rain. Maybe its temperature is super hot. And we have one tiny little plant over here. So maybe the plants aren't getting enough water and struggle to grow a little bit. What's an ecosystem that might be really hot, maybe has not much water, and sometimes their plants can grow big, but they take a long time to get there? Well, if you guessed a desert ecosystem, you'd be correct. So in our deserts, they're so different than a lot of our other ecosystems, but we find cool critters like snakes and lizards, and even jackrabbits live over here. So it's a pretty neat ecosystem and a very hot one too. Our next one is a bit of an opposite to that ecosystem. I notice again, there's not much growing. The plants are pretty small, those biotic plants. Oh, I noticed some snow on the ground. Snow is a type of water, so that's an abiotic element to this ecosystem. And if there's snow around, it's probably very, very cold in temperature. What ecosystem might this one be? If you guessed a tundra, or maybe you were thinking of places up north, like the North Pole, there's tons of snow. It's cold most time around the year. And we have cool animals like polar bears. Maybe some penguins live up there, but these animals are adapted to live in very cold environments. All right, our next ecosystem we're going to guess is this one. I noticed some biotic elements of really tall growing grass. And I don't see much else because that grass is so tall. Maybe we have little mice living under here, hiding in that tall grass. What kind of ecosystem might this be? Well, if you guessed a grassland ecosystem, you'd be correct. Grasslands have a ton of grass. And our last ecosystem we're looking at today is this one. Let's see what we can find in this patch of earth. I notice a lot of leaves on the ground, some moss on the ground. If it's very green, that means this place might get some water or moisture. So what ecosystem do you think this is a part of? If you guessed a forest ecosystem, you'd be correct. And our forests have animals like bears. Maybe we have some foxes, lots and lots of birds to live in these trees. So learning about our ecosystems is a really, really great way to lend a hand and care for the land. Back to you, Sandy.
Thanks, Farah. So now we just learned about lend a hand, care for the land, and we are going to learn about some of Woodsy's other slogans. Give a hoot, don't pollute, and the 4 R's. Do you know what the 4 R's are? Well, they stand for reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot, or composting, like Emily told us about earlier. So now we're going to go through an activity where I show you how to compost and what composting is. So composting is how nature recycles. It is a way people use the natural process of decomposition to produce a rich, fertile soil. With materials such as plant trimmings, kitchen scraps, and a few basic techniques, composting is easy. So compost has a few basic ingredients. So first it has your brown ingredients, And then it has your green ingredients. And it also has water. So our browns in our compost have materials like dead leaves, twigs, and branches, and maybe things like mulch too. And our green brown ingredients include provide carbon to your compost pile. And carbon is important because it is the building block of all life. And it's also one of the main ingredients in your compost. It's an important energy source for the decomposers in your soil and also for the plants that will eventually grow from your compost. So our next ingredient are our green ingredients. These include materials like grass clippings, green leaves, and also food scraps like this corn husk or these cucumber peels or this eggshell. So the greens in your compost are important because they provide nitrogen. Nitrogen provides energy for the small organisms that break down the soil or the decomposers. Nitrogen is also an important fertilizer for your plants that you'll be growing in your compost. So your compost should have equal parts of browns and greens. Now, the last ingredient in compost is water. So water is really what helps mix everything all up, and it helps break everything down. Now, if you live in a place that gets lots of rainfall, you probably don't need to add water to your compost. But if you live in a really dry place like the desert Farah was showing us earlier, sometimes you might need to wet down your compost. So now I showed you a couple things you can compost. What are some other things you can compost? So you can compost fruits and vegetables, the eggshells that I showed you earlier. You can compost coffee grounds, tea bags, nutshells, shredded newspaper, cardboard, yard trimmings, hair and fur, and the list goes on. So now that we know all the things we can compost, let's put it all together. I'm gonna put my browns. Oops, I dropped a twig on the keyboard. Put that in the compost pile. And then we're gonna put our greens, our yard trimmings, and also our food scraps. And then we're gonna put our last ingredient to help mix it all up, our water. So those are all the basic ingredients that go into compost, but you can't just throw all these things together and expect them to turn into soil. There's another very important part of composting that I'll let Farah explain now.
Thanks, Sandy. So one of my favorite parts of compost are the decomposers. So decomposers eat up that yummy compost and turn it into rich, beautiful soil. So decomposers include fungi like mushroom, bugs like worms. I like these guys, I call them roly-polies, but you might know them as pill bugs, and even flies. They all work together, they eat that compost, and guess what? That soil is their poop. And also bacteria helps break down and decompose all that yummy, nutritious compost.
Okay, so here are some worms, the things that poop into your soil and help make it really fertile. Farmers love worm poop. They also call it worm castings. So worms, bugs, and bacteria aren't actually the only decomposers. There are some other friends that can help us break down compost. So this is my chicken. Chickens are really helpful in composting because they help mix things up when they scratch with their feet. Their poop is also rich in nutrients that are really good for the soil. Now, you don't need chickens to compost, but you do need worms, bugs, and bacteria. Chickens are just really cute little helpers. Well, now that we have learned about the things that we can compost, what are some of the things that you can't compost? So we don't compost citrus peels, because they take too long to break down. So avoid putting oranges, lemons, or limes into your compost. We also don't compost meat because the average compost pile isn't hot enough to kill bacteria in meat that could make you really sick. So while it is possible to compost, most people avoid dairy, like this butter here, because it takes a lot of extra and special steps to compost. And if it's not composted correctly, dairy can attract pests, hold bacteria that can make you sick, and also make your compost take a really long time to break down. And another thing that you should avoid composting are things with lots of seeds. Otherwise, they might start growing. So in time, all of the things that we mixed up earlier will eventually turn into soil, which is really good stuff to grow your plants in later. So I know that not everyone can compost at home. So if you can't compost at home, you can check local waste management or the city to see if they have large-scale composting. Sometimes local farms can also take your composting. So composting helps us remember to give a hoot and don't pollute, because instead of littering our food waste, we can turn it into useful compost that we will use to grow into more plants. It also saves a lot of waste from going into the landfill where you'll never be able to use it again. Now, if you compost, you get to use this waste over and over again in the soil that you make. So next time you're thinking about throwing away a food scrap, remember the fourth R, rot, and think about composting. Remember to do the rot thing. Over to you, Farah.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for learning with us today. I talked about how we can help lend a hand and care for the land by observing what kind of ecosystems we're looking at. And Sandy told us how we can help give a hoot and don't pollute by the 4 R's, and more specifically by doing the rot thing or composting. So each and every one of us can learn so much from Woodsy Owl and make a huge difference on our environment and the people around us. All we have to do is lend a hand, care for the land, give a hoot, don't pollute, and all the other stuff we talked about with Woodsy Owl today. We can all make the better place for ourselves, the other people around us, our friends, our plants, animals, and future generations, so the people that will come after us, so they too can enjoy this beautiful earth. All right, so there's so many ways that you can help Woodsy Owl accomplish his mission of taking care of nature.
Speaking of mission, Woodsy Owl needs your help to accomplish his 50th birthday mission on Agents of Discovery. So like Casey mentioned earlier, make sure you download the Agents of Discovery app and search for the Woodsy Owl 50th birthday mission. And also, you can join us on September 14th on Woodsy's Facebook page for Woodsy Owl Live, where we'll get to learn even more about Woodsy's birthday and meet some of the other amazing Forest Service employees. We always do our best to lend a hand and care for the land. How can you lend a hand in your community? So that's it for me and Farah. I'm going to pass it back to you, Casey.
Farah and Sandy, thank you so much for joining us today to celebrate Woodsy Owl's 50th birthday. Speaking of his birthday, Woodsy, we have a surprise there for you. Have you found it?
Yes, we did.
What did you find?
We found a birthday cake.
Super exciting. Yes, the Mission Conservation team thought it would be a great idea to sing happy birthday to Woodsy Owl. So everyone, let's all get together and sing Woodsy happy birthday. All right, are you ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Woodsy. Happy birthday to you.
That was beautiful, lovely. A cha-cha-cha. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Woodsy. Like Sandy mentioned, mark your calendars for September 15th. This is Woodsy's birthday. Well, that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us today, Woodsy. We can't wait to celebrate your birthday and play your mission. To play Woodsy's mission, log on to our mission conservation website and scroll all the way down to our partners' missions. You can click the Woodsy Owl mission and get ready for your fun Woodsy-filled mission adventure. So join us next week as we feature Sam Stewart from the Missouri Department of Conservation at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We hope to see you then. And remember Woodsy's slogan, give a hoot, don't pollute. We will see you next week. Thank you.